Hey, everybody, welcome back to the 26th episode of Taps and Patience, the podcast that if weeks were years, we could now rent a car. I am AJ with Design the Everything, here with Harrison of Precision Ingenuity and Scott DeRuby of... Maybe we throw that in later and leave a little bit of suspense. Do we? Oh, okay, he spoiled it. And Scott DeRuby of Design the Everything. Hi, Scott and Harrison. How you guys doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys this evening?
Scott? I'm doing all right.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Lots has happened in the last week.
Yeah, so Scott, what did you do? Why are you here?
I'm here because I'm officially joining Design the Everything as the second employee, I suppose we would say.
Or second business partner.
Second founder.
Technically, you're not an employee.
Co-founder that took a break and came back. Yes.
Yeah. And what did you do today?
I put in my 2 weeks at my day job so I can go full time with Design the Everything.
Woohoo.
Yeah, I'm super pumped. A little scared, but pumped.
Yeah, same.
We all go through that where we have those moments where we just kind of we're in it. Then we'll see how long it lasts. So
yeah, I'm gonna be that meme of like, we're doing it.
Yeah. I heard somebody, and they were probably quoting somebody else, so third hand quote, but somebody said that like if you are putting enough effort, like if you are how do I word this? How did they word it? I don't remember how they worded it. But if you are playing at the top of your game, then like a third of the time you should be on top of the world. A third of the time you should feel like at the bottom of the world and that you're failing. And a third of the time things should be fine and normal.
I just listened to that podcast yesterday.
Was that in like the bomb or?
It was not. It was I believe it was in Taps and Patience. And I don't remember if it was not Taps and Patience.
That's this one.
Not that one. Within Tolerance. Sorry.
Okay.
Within Tolerance, and it was I believe it was their most recent one. And they were just talking about the struggles that they were going through, and I think one of them, I don't remember which one it was, had that quote, which I believe was from an Olympic swimmer, or an Olympic.
That sounds right.
An Olympic coach of a swimmer. Something along those lines. Anyways, it was a really good quote, and I was actually thinking about it the other day, yesterday, when I was listening to it. So,
I have definitely been in all three of those places in the last week or two. So,
very much so.
Highs and more lows.
Anyway, Harrison. Harrison, why don't you start talking about Precision Ingenuity, and then Scott and I can talk, because again, like last week, we'll probably talk a lot, which I guess is the point of a podcast. But
yeah, no, that's good. Well, there hasn't really been a whole lot. It's only been like 2 or 3 days because we had it so late last time.
That's true.
That being said, today some really cool stuff happened in the shop, and unfortunately I don't have any videos or anything up on Instagram yet, but it will be coming out soon. We are going to film some videos of this, but there was a YouTube video that came out from a gentleman. I don't remember who it was, but it kind of blew my mind. He was using his Tormach as a CNC tubing bender. And he had some bars that he was bending, and he made a jig, and he would stick them in there, and then the machine with the spindle turned off, and just a solid chunk of carbide in it, it would just bend the bars around corners. And so I have a project. Yeah, I have a project I've been working on, and I've been trying to figure out how to do, because I have some spring steel, and I got to bend it into a very particular shape. And I've been trying to figure out a way to automate it or make it a lot easier and get extremely repeatable results, which I always knew was going to be some sort of a die, but the features are complicated enough that I couldn't use it in just my press brake that I have right now, or my Harbor Freight hydraulic press. Like I couldn't just make
Mhm.
a set of dies and do it in there effectively. And so today I spent all day making dies, and I had I had successes, and I was able to make it work. And it's repeatable, and it's awesome, and it's terrifying. So,
Okay, so you're
but
doing it. Like you're
yeah,
not just thinking about it, you're doing it.
yeah. So like I
That's
saw the
cool.
video. I've had it in the back of my head for about a week, and today was the first day that I had a little bit of time to actually do it. And so it was super fun. And it was really terrifying because the spring steel that we got from McMaster Car, and it came pre-hardened. And so the first test that I tried, I had some really tight bends that I had to make, and the spring like broke in the middle of it and went twang and went all across the machine and scared me. And so I've been cutting off pieces and then heating it up with a blowtorch to anneal it, and that's been working really well. I need to see if I can find the spring steel. I'm sure I just haven't looked. I'm sure McMaster sells it in an annealed state, but I just need to find some in an annealed state, and that'll save me the time of having to relieve all the hardened state material.
So excuse me, I had to restart my headphones there. They were kind of flipping out on me. What
Mhm.
material did you say you were using?
It's a spring steel. I don't remember what
It,
exactly type of steel, but it's just it's a stuff that McMaster sells. It comes in like a 25-foot roll.
okay.
And I think this one was about 40 thou in thickness, about a quarter inch wide, and it was pre-hardened.
So I have experience with that exact same steel and a magic trick. Pay attention to grain direction on it. If you are breaking perpendicular, if you're bending parallel with the grain, it'll snap like immediately. If you are breaking across the grain, it will not snap.
Okay,
We used
well,
that exact same material at my day job, and we went through the same thing. We we ran the job once and it went perfectly fine. We went to run it a second time with the exact same material, and every single part snapped on us. And we tried like blue temper, we tried 3/4 temper, half temper, quarter temper, annealed, and like we just ran into the same issues over and over and over again. And then Stefan on YouTube made some comment. I don't remember if it was on the Discord or in one of his videos, but he mentioned not bending across the grain, and we tried that, and it worked beautifully the first time. And it just so happened that the first time we ran those parts, we ran it with the grain in the right orientation. But then when we ran it the second time, we ran it with the grain in the other orientation.
so on a part like this, it's a quarter inch wide, but it's 3 inches long. So and I bought it in a thin strip. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just cutting it off. So I don't really have an option to flip the grain direction with this particular
Mm.
size, and unless I order it in 3 inch wide strips and then cut it a quarter inch at a time, um,
Yeah.
or order it in three inch wide strip and then find out that, oh, the grain direction is correct, and now I got to cut long ways to get my
Yeah.
parts out. So it doesn't really work for this particular. I don't think it's very effective in this particular application. Um,
Well, they do sell it in like quarter temper and half temper.
okay, because if I can get it in like quarter temper, because I think this is full temper what I got right now,
Mm-hmm.
um, then that'll probably make a huge difference. And I've also thought about, because annealing it works so well. I've thought about, the university I teach at. They have a hot shot forge, so I've thought
Oh yeah.
about cutting up a bunch of them and just taking them there and then just running them through a cycle, like programming a cycle to temper them back, on their little hot shot oven, and just running, a couple hundred at a time or something.
Yeah, it should be pretty easy.
hmm
Are you just like shearing the blanks or
I was cutting them with a pair of pliers today, but I'm looking at getting like a bench mounted
shear?
shear that has a lot more force behind it, and then setting up a stop where I can push them up against the stop and then just cut, and just make a bunch really fast. That's my ultimate goal. That way I can mass produce these, because they need to be a low dollar part on a high volume
Mm-hmm.
item. And so my whole goal in all of this is to make it as quick and easy as possible. And something that we've been toying around with is getting a Pearson palette. And one thing I would like to do that, or maybe even like a Saunders palette, like what you've had,
Mm-hmm.
either one of those. And then I could set up because I need to bolt these down to keep the springs from bouncing all over the place. And so I thought if I had some sort of palette system, once I get everything proofed out, I could have an array of these things, and then just run the cycle and have a different palette that I'm swapping in and out. And that would be much faster and much more cost effective, I think, in the long run, if I'm going to make a bunch of these.
Yeah. Oh man, I was just talking to someone who was selling a Pearson system, and I don't remember. Oh, Fidget Things, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe shoot him a message.
I need to.
Someone. I can go back through my messages. It may not have been Fidget Things, but someone was, and I turned him down because I didn't want to spend money. But
Yeah,
like those Pearson systems are super nice.
Yeah, and I actually just called Pearson Work Holding last week on Friday, because, and here's an interesting thought, and I haven't heard back from them just yet, but they're supposed to get back with me. They sell a 14 by 9.5 inch wide vacuum pallet that goes on their Pearson pallet system, and then they sell a 14 by 9.5 pallet with toe clamps. And my question to them was, could I buy a 14 by 9.5 vacuum pallet that was designed for the Pearson pallet system, but also had the toe clamps? That way I could get that first, because I need vacuum before I need the Pearson pallet system. But if I could get a vacuum pallet system that I could direct mount to my table, I could get by with it until I get a Pearson pallet system at some point, and then I could just direct mount it to that. And I was like, that would give me the best of both worlds. It'd allow me to rigid mount it or to put it on the pallet system, depending on what I'm doing at the time.
You could probably turn a Saunders Machine Works pallet into a vacuum system without too much effort.
Mm-hmm. But I would still need a vacuum unit, and that's the more expensive part of the Pearson pallet. I think the vacuum unit they sell, don't quote me on this, but is over half the cost of the whole system.
Yeah, it's like $500 or $600.
Yeah. And the pallet I was looking at was around $1,100-$1,200, so it's around half the cost is in that. Which, at that point, I'm kind of leaning that way, because I also like the ability to Pearson sells top plates for it that we can machine and put gasket into, and I really like that idea as well for some custom products that we're working on. So. That's more or less the majority of the stuff that I've been working on. Trying to think if there's anything else major. Nothing super major. My local machine shop that I've done work with in the past has been slowing down drastically. And I don't know if that's an industry-wide trend or not. But we're definitely not getting... Like, we're busy. We're not twiddling our thumbs by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm kind of glad to have a little bit of a break to get caught up on some of this other stuff. But it's definitely the job shop side of stuff. I haven't really heard a beep from anyone in a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's March. I don't think March is the busiest time of the year for anybody.
Mm-hmm. So, let's change gears and what's going on with you guys over there? There's two of you now.
There is.
So you want to talk a little bit about that?
So, I guess it's... I don't know, Scott, what do we want to do? Do you just want to go through the whole story?
Sure, yeah, that works.
So one day last week, I was sitting down and starting to do like the cash flow numbers for Design the Everything. And as I was going through the numbers, it was pretty apparent to me that if things kept going at the same rate they were, with the same rate of growth and yada, 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 then eventually me by myself, I was going to run out of money. Like Design the Everything wasn't going to last for forever. Basically the way our cash flow works is we have like regular weekly or daily online store sales. And then also we have quarterly or so Kickstarters. And the regular online sales were not enough to support Design the Everything by themselves. But and then the Kickstarters were quarterly, and they basically gave us a boost to cash, and then we slowly tapered down the cash, and then there was a Kickstarter that gave us a boost to cash, and it was this nice little like saw blade of our bank account balance. And with what I was doing now, with what I could expect Kickstarters to reasonably be in the amount of growth in the online sales, like that sawtooth was going downhill, and eventually I was going to run out of money. Probably early next year or so, maybe December or so. And there wasn't really much else that I could do. I've been pretty much maxed out. And I just had the realization, it's like, okay, if this is going to work, then I need to be able to do more than I'm doing now. And, Scott was an original founder of Design the Everything back when we first saw, I think, the Tactile Turn Kickstarter for one of their pens. And that's, kind of what started Design the Everything. And he eventually left, and we did our own things for, I don't know, a couple years. And it was like, all right, if I'm going to get more done, then I need Scott to come back, because basically I was doing all of the urgent things and not doing the important things. And when you get stuck in that mode, your business will slowly die on you if you're just chasing the urgent and ignoring the important. And so I needed someone to come back, I needed someone else to come in and help me so that the important things could get done. And Scott is the only obvious solution. Since he already knows the business, he's been working for Design the Everything, freelance, even when he wasn't directly involved with it. So there's not like, I don't have to train Scott. We need to set up some systems and stuff, but he's pretty much ready to jump in as soon as he leaves his job. And with some even slim growth on both the Kickstarters and the online sales, we should be fine. It's either 50% growth on the Kickstarters and we're golden, like stable, profitable, or 400% growth on the online sales, which sounds like a lot, but we're not doing a huge amount right now. So if we do either one of those within a year or some combination of them, then Design the Everything will be stable, even with Scott's added cash burn.
Okay. Have you guys decided which one you want to focus on, or are you going to try to hit both?
I don't see why not hit both. And especially because there is two of us now. Scott will add a lot to the quality of our Kickstarters, and that both in product and in like the actual campaign itself. And then he will also add a lot to the online store. And that frees me up to pursue wholesale and B2B sales.
So, I'm going to divulge that I do know a little bit of what's going on in the background, but I am curious. Scott, are you going to be coming into Design the Everything frequently, or are you going to be working from home?
Yeah, the plan is to work from home most of the time, but I'll probably be in 1 to 2 days a week unless we decide otherwise once we get going for real.
Okay. And you're going to be doing some of the online stuff?
Like probably the most of the online stuff.
So here's a question that I'm genuinely curious about. Is online sales going to be shipped from Scott's house, or is it going to be shipped from the Design the Everything shop? Because I know you just got done doing this nice shipping station, but if you're trying to do next day shipping, and let's say Scott's working from home that day, would Scott print out labels that would, because if you have something like ShipStation, you can wirelessly print labels at a different location, which is something really cool that me and Weston have done. Like if one of us is not at the shop, Weston can, like, if I'm at the shop and he's not, he can log onto his computer and print out all the labels, and then I just grab the labels and fulfill the orders. But being in two different locations and trying to keep up with online sales, I could see as a potential problem.
Yeah,
I don't
AJ
see.
can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that he is going to still ship. Like
Okay.
I will take care of the website and make sure it works and update it and all that, but he'll still ship because all the products will still be at his house.
The actual like fulfilling of products is not a big part of my day. Like even if we 10x our sales, they would still be like the first hour in the morning.
Oh,
right
I was
now,
about
it's
to
like
say,
the first 15 minutes in the morning.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
about to say like we could hope that it's a big part of your day, but I guess like you said, even if we 10x to like it still wouldn't be a huge deal, which is good.
That's fair. Do you guys get a lot of questions on Etsy? Like, do you get a lot of users call or emailing you or sending messages through Etsy asking all sorts of questions?
On Etsy, no. I mean, it occasionally happens, but it's pretty rare. Through the Kickstarters, yes.
Okay. Because that is one area I have noticed that it's nice having a second person like Weston. And it's probably more prevalent if you have stuff that's customizable, like people putting their names or logos or whatnot. But we have people that'll we'll go back and forth with for a couple hours trying to get all the details ironed out before they place an order. And there's just a lot of time sunk into that sometimes. And like we had one individual who has messaged us 3 or 4 different times, claiming they were going to place a large order and asking for a bulk discount. And we've given them a 24-hour code, I think twice, and they have yet to place the order and keep coming back and saying that they want to place it. They just didn't have time to. And so it's stuff like that. You're kind of like, it can take up a lot of time and frustration on the customized side of Etsy.
So this is something we used to deal with when we did branding irons.
Yeah,
And
I
we
was
pretty
very
much
involved with those.
we pretty much conquered that, and that was having a scale script. We like legitimately had a flow chart that was like the branding iron conversations. At this point, we were doing over Facebook Marketplace, and obviously it didn't work 100% of the times, but 95% of the times you could just copy paste a message from that flow chart on and like send it to the customer.
Mm-hmm.
And because you could refine that script, you could head off a lot of the questions and like requests that they had and all that.
So a lot of this we end up doing from our phone because a lot of it happens in the evening hours. Do you know if Etsy has any way to have pre-done scripts of any kind?
Etsy has canned responses, but also just like stick them in a Google Doc and just go open your Google Doc and copy paste out.
That's fair.
It'll save you a ton of time if you're doing custom work.
Admittedly, I don't talk to the customers very much. This is very much Weston's side of the operation more than mine. But I will definitely have to talk to him about it and see what he has to say. Because I do know that a large portion of his day has been spent many times just dealing with customers. So,
Yep.
okay. Let's see here. Do I have any other? Do you guys have any other things that you want to bring up while I think of something else to ask?
I have a question for Scott.
Oh, okay.
So what is, from your, like so far you've had both an inside and an outside perspective, but most recently an outside perspective. What is Design the Everything doing wrong that you would like to work on?
I would say it's a little harder to. Oh man, I was gonna say it's a little harder from the outside, but you do get valuable insight not being in the middle of it. What comes to mind is something that we're already working on, which is trying to focus our products so that we're not the. I mean, design the everything is a fun name, but we don't want to literally design everything. We don't want to be the people. Like, we want customers to know who, like, what we make and what, at least a general category of like things that we improve on. which I think is a work in progress. Like, it's not something you just figure out and then you're done. And we've mostly AJ, since he's the one who's been full time on this recently, has been doing a good job of like actually making products in like a category, for lack of a better term, like in a straight line, more than just like whatever we think of next.
Yeah, which is why I kind of invented Better Keychains, because Better Keychains was an excuse for me to just focus on that one product category.
Yeah, for sure.
Though even like when I quickly threw up that Shopify website, I was going through our products and I had to kind of categorize them, and it was like, okay, these are the Better Keychains products. That's easy enough. And then it was like, what do I call the other projects or other products? And I eventually just categorized them as Design the Everything. But it's like, there's a tape measure and a pen and meeples and just kind of a bunch of,
The meeples,
I guess,
I cannot
arguably,
categorize.
yeah, like none of it just categorizes very well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the other stuff that we've done in the past has been everyday carry and I just lost the other one. Oh, desk toys is what I would call it. So you could even call meeples desk toys. I don't, unless you're buying 50 of them to play a game with.
Which nobody has actually ever done.
Yeah.
Everybody wants us to drill a hole through the head of the meeple and make him a lanyard bead.
Oh.
Or like vertical through the whole body.
Sure, why not?
I mean, yeah, exactly. It's just one of those things I haven't gone around to yet.
Yeah.
So, with your online sales, here's a good question. With your online sales, are you planning on focusing on marketing, and having higher inventories of things, or on, like you kind of mentioned there, streamlining your products and developing new products to fit into better categories?
I mean,
so part of it is
go
definitely
ahead.
the just like sensicalization of the products. I don't know if that's going to make a huge difference, at least not immediately. Okay, it'll make a long run, it'll make a huge difference, but short run, it's not going to make a huge difference on sales. The only ways that I know how to increase regular online sales is to do a better job of social media. And this is kind of one of the, this is a conversation Scott and I need to have. I don't want to put him on the spot, but like, this is where Scott knows what he's doing and I don't.
Yeah.
Is how to increase those sales.
I actually, oh, go ahead, Scott.
Oh, I mean, I do need to be in the middle of it to really know what to improve on after I just continue what has been started already. Because you do a good job of like, explaining what you're doing at the time and posting regularly. I know that you probably feel like you miss sometimes, but a lot of the time people aren't on Instagram literally every day.
Mm-hmm.
But that all being said, I think just like general improvements we've talked about, just like posting more reels will help, and just a wider variety that you couldn't do because you're only one person. Different types of posts that aren't just teaching.
Yeah,
and then
we could. I do have a. No, you're okay. I do have something positive to say, and that is that AJ, with just one of you outpost me and Weston tenfold. So, you have a story every day. I always know what's going on in your shop if I have a second to look at what's going on. Your social media presence on Instagram is very strong, and you are constantly one of the top 10 people that show up in my feed all the time. And I don't know if that means that I have a small feed or what, but you're always. I mean, I'm following a lot of different people, and that's not true on my account and on the Precision Ingenuity account. I'm always seeing you on both accounts pretty regularly, and I think you do a really good job of reaching your audience through that media. Even with there just being one of you, because I know me and Weston will look at each other, once a week and go, man, how does AJ produce so much content? And there's just two of us and we can't.
Yeah. When when I was, going through this little, design the everything existential crisis of how are we going to survive, one of the things I did, well, it first started kind of with the idea that like I need to be doing fewer things better. And so I need to only really be focusing on the things that like Design the Everything is good at and not doing all the things that Design the Everything is not good at. And so I started writing out like, what am I good at? What is Design the Everything good at? And basically what the conclusion I came to is that the thing that I am good at is looking like a human on the internet. And I'm not great necessarily at monetizing that or turning that into online sales, but I do know how to come across as a human on the internet. Yeah. And so hopefully Scott will kind of fill in some of the gaps that I have, and we can start making
you'll
money.
Have your human moments, and then you'll have like that intermission of like, and this product here, if you want to buy it.
Yes,
I don't know if either of you ever watched lttstore.com, but they do a really funny way of, and like they always will bring in their own products, but they'll always like just randomly throw it in there at like the weirdest times. They'll be like lttstore.com, and like it always keeps it in the back of your head anytime you're watching any of their videos. And they do it in a fun human way where they're like, hey, I'm thirsty, can you throw me a water bottle? And they like chunk it across the room, and it like hits him or lands on the floor or something, and lttstore.com, and it's goofy, but I'm sure they move a lot of merch doing that kind of stuff. And not to say that everything needs to become like a sponsored moment, because I know it can get really annoying, and that's part of the reason they probably do it in the goofy way they do it, is that it's quick, it's in there, they've done it, and then they've moved on to the reason most people are actually watching them.
Yeah, I like that. I like just like, what is the dumb skit we can think of right now, and then just do that, and then it's like 10 seconds of your video. It's fun.
And making more YouTube videos is probably going to be one of the things that we can do with Scott here, because Scott was editing many of the videos, if not most. Scott was editing most of the videos. I would do some of the weird ones or the easy ones, and he was doing the harder ones. But like he had a full-time job and, a church and other things that he wanted to do in the evenings. And so now, we can record one, edit it, get it out.
I have another question that I was thinking about. In the past, we've had conversations, and one of the things that you brought up that you really wanted to focus on was parametric design. Is that something you want to bring back? Where you can have people customize made to order, or is that something that you thought great thoughts about, and then you tried to do it and you're like, I see why people don't do this?
A little bit of both. We're kind of still in the same spirit with like the generative design stuff that we're doing, and I do want to keep doing that. I think there's a lot of value in it. I do think you have to have the right product for it. It has to be a very high dollar item product for it to make sense. And the better keychain stuff I've been focusing on has been lower value. So maybe there is a parametric carabiner at some point, but that parametric carabiner is going to be like $100. And the better keychains line is supposed to be something that anybody would buy or could buy.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with having a few high dollar items eventually. Like if most of it is in the reasonable range, then we could throw in $100 item, and the people who have the money for that or think that's cool, we'll be in on that.
I think in the future, the parametric items are probably going to be behind the Patreon wall. I don't want them to be mass sale items necessarily. Actually, that would be really cool if I could, I suppose, if it was possible. But right now, we don't have the systems in place to be able to mass produce the parametric items. I think that would be like a palette changer machine kind of necessity to be able to do those. And like, we just don't have that at the moment. And like even our changeover times are just too slow for it. But if we put them behind the Patreon paywall, then like we're selling less of them and we're only selling them to people who are very interested in them. And I have been pushing that Patreon store a lot more recently. I don't remember if we talked about that last week, but
we mentioned it for sure. And it is a great idea, and I think it's an awesome addition. So
yeah, there's a theory of selling stuff that's like you only need 1,000 true fans to have a business. And the definition of true fan is basically they'll buy anything that you put out. And like that takes a lot of like dedication and commitment from those fans. And you can breed that by just doing a really good job at whatever you're doing, but it works better when you kind of get people fast tracked to being committed. And getting someone to pay $3 a month is a kind of small commitment that gets people on board for the bigger commitment of buying everything that you do. So the Patreon and the Patreon store is kind of my way of getting to those 1,000 true fans faster.
I like
1,000 true fans is Seth Godin for anyone who's curious.
Yeah.
Harrison,
have you read any Seth Godin?
I have not. I haven't even heard the name.
Really? You need to
Highly
read Purple Cow at very least.
I have heard of that. I have heard of the Purple Cow.
It's because I did an episode on With Intolerance.
Yeah, I think I heard it from you, or maybe from With Intolerance,
or me on With Intolerance,
or maybe you.
That was my episode.
That's probably where I heard it. It was There's definitely some being unique and standing out definitely makes a big difference, which I think was the whole point of that Purple Cow thing.
I haven't read
on that note.
go ahead.
I was going to say, on that note, what Purple Cow can you bring to the industry if not parametric pry bars or parametric design in general?
Well, we're doing the generative design stuff, like with the coins.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just like most of our products look fairly different. Like our carabiners didn't look like any other carabiners that are out there. Our new carabiners are also not really going to look like any carabiners that are out there. The openness that we share with people, like the amount of information we share about design, the everything on the internet with people in general, that's fairly unusual.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of a thing where you have to always focus on. Like you have to intentionally do things that are different just to do things that are different.
Yeah. And on that note, I will say the little kit that I got to add to my carabiner that I got from you has been working awesome.
That's good.
So I haven't had any issues since I put that on. And it was actually getting worse. It was getting to the point where every day it was basically popping off my keychain.
Popping off.
And now it is on permanently. So
yeah,
very happy.
Yeah, the new carabiners will be better.
I bring this up to encourage you, not to bring you down.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a very clever, and I really like the look of it. So I think it's a cool add-on.
Yeah, I'm impressed just in general that he solved the problem. Like, let alone in an aesthetic way.
Yeah. And what I was amazed at how thin it was overall. I was expecting something much bulkier.
I tried to keep it as thin as I could.
So I was very impressed by that. I haven't had it catch on anything so far, and I've been real happy with it.
Yeah, I wish I could have countersunk the screw or used like a flathead, but there just wasn't room. Like I could have made it thicker, but that defeats the purpose. But that button head odd 80 screw.
Have something else. I'm getting my first slitting saw.
Ooh.
So
are you gonna do some salami slicing?
I'm gonna be doing some salami slicing. I had a customer's product, or not customer's product, a customer's part that came in that when I saw it, I was like, this is going to be really annoying to set up in op 1, op 2. There's not really a good way to hold it on op 2 after you do op 1. But I was like, it actually makes sense as the salami slice method. And so I broke down, I bought a slitting saw, and I bought a chamfering tool that can do underside chamfering. So I'm gonna underside chamfer it and use the slitting saw to take it off. But it's out of stainless steel. So this is gonna be interesting.
I've done it in stainless. That's where I first did it.
Okay. I got a 1/16 inch thick, 1 3/4 inch diameter.
Okay.
From Harvey Tools.
Yeah, I always ran it in high belt, which you don't always run everything in high belt like me. So you will have a much better time of it than I will, or than I did.
Okay.
And do.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of what I think I was talking to Servin Solutions about it a little bit. Just asking him because he's done a lot of it. And we were talking a little bit about your experience with it. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, running it in high belt. And I'm like, I'll be running it in low belt. Yeah. I'm doing that in low belt. I was like, I do all my stainless in low belt. I used to switch back and forth, but after the last big job that I did, I only switched it into high belt like once. And that was for some really tiny holes that I think I had to 440 tap. And even then, I probably could have left it in low belt. But I was going to switch into high belt because after I was done with this job, I was switching over to aluminum. So I just saved that op for the last op, switched it into high belt, finished up those parts, and then had to clean out the machine and switch over to aluminum.
Yep.
So,
can I take a moment here for bragging and pride? It's not bragging. It's like a little bit of pride on my part, but something that made me proud. It's not pride, I hope, but it made me proud. There's probably a word for that. But so do you watch the videos from the guy that does the Bowie song Scissors? I can't remember his YouTube channel's name right now.
Yes. I really enjoy his stuff.
Do you remember the name of his channel? Because I'll feel bad if I can't.
I'll look it up while you're talking.
Okay. So that guy, the guy who made the Bowie song Scissors, he put out a video where he was salami slicing parts. And I don't think he saw me do it. But I have seen other people who have seen me do it. And it's kind of like spreading through the community where like the salami slice method is just being an accepted way that we make things now. And like, I did not come up with it. I think I heard probably one of the Johns mention it. I don't really remember where I heard it, but like I heard someone reference it like a year ago in a podcast. They just made an obscure reference. And I never saw anybody else do it. But ever since I have been doing it, I've seen it just kind of slowly pick up in the community. And like, I don't care that he does, like, I don't care if he knows that I'm the one that has been doing it recently or not. But like, one of the Design the Everything goals, or one of the values, I should say, it's actually our last value, but one of our values is we move manufacturing forwards by trying things that other people will not, sharing our journey, inspiring and equipping others. And fostering community. And like that was one of our values come complete there. Is like, this is a really efficient way of making some parts, and it doesn't require any extra equipment, I guess, except a slitting saw. Like it's a very cheap form of automation, and it can make any machine much more highly productive. And so like, I think it's a good thing that this method gets out into the world, and like it did. And I'm going to take some credit for that. Little proud moment there. My little baby salami slice going out into the big world.
Contraption Collection.
Thank you. He should change the name of his channel because nobody will ever remember that because he makes scissors.
Yeah. I when I saw that, the very first thing I thought of was the podcast with me, you, and Servin Solutions. Mm-hmm. Like, and then I think you were actually doing it before that. But yeah, that was kind of cool to see that video, and I was definitely thinking of you when I was watching it.
Now, I will say he added something that was really cool in doing a curved tab, which
Yes.
I've always done straight linear tabs, and that would add a lot of rigidity. Though I just kind of shoot my parts out into the machine, I've never seen anybody else do that. I think that is something that only I am brave enough to do.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
everybody
I saw
in audio, I just did air quotes. I meant dumb. It's a dumb thing.
I saw his curve deal, and I'm definitely going to be stealing that for my salami slice method because I'm only making like less than 15 parts. I don't remember how many it was exactly, but I don't really want them slinging across the machine because they will have a decent amount of mass.
Yeah.
So, let's see here.
I feel like we should throw the ball back at Scott, but
I know. I was just thinking that.
because otherwise
Scott's
it's
too
just
quiet.
us talking.
I can. This is a little apropos of nothing, but I edited the video about fixing the carabiners, and
Which was super
I
good, by the way.
particularly enjoyed some of the montages of you finding the teeny tiny pieces in the machine for the exact reason that you hated it, because it was just really funny to watch, like because they went everywhere.
I still occasionally find one of those in my machine.
That's
Amazing. Yeah.
So what you need is a way to. Ooh, this would be a cool idea. Could you stick a basket on the backside of your machine and have your coolant blowing in such a way that when it cut them off, it blew them into the basket?
Yeah,
With a part of that size, at least.
I think the simplest thing would just be to put up a little bit of a wall, like just something that kind of helps contain them, because they do shoot off in a predictable direction.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could do a basket thing too, but I didn't know how you would get them to all go in the same direction.
Yeah, they're somewhat predictable.
Does it leave a tab on the backside of them when they come off?
Of the retrofit kits, no, there was no tab on those, which is why they went shooting across the machine.
Okay.
The meeples, they do get left with a very, very, very thin tab that generally just peels right off, though sometimes I have to take it to sandpaper.
Okay.
And the tab on the meeples is in the worst possible position because the way it cuts, the tab ends up directly in their crotch. And so if you don't do a good job removing the crotch, the meeples are a little too anatomically correct. Some of them being better endowed than others.
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
That's not a
Say
bug,
somebody
it's a
would
feature.
prefer this.
I do not want to meet that person.
Oh, we all know that person. There's always one.
There is. Oh, that's funny.
But the meeples actually do the best salami slicing because that little tab connects all of them. And so when the first one gets cut, it just kind of like droops off the side of the stock that we're salami slicing down, and it neatly pulls the next one, and that pulls the next one, and that pulls the next one. And so the meeples don't go shooting. The meeples just pile up very neatly at the bottom of the stock.
Do you think that's a function of material or a function of design? Like
it definitely wasn't intentional.
like the shape of the parts or something.
So it's a function of the material and cutting them out. Actually, both aluminum and brass did this. Maybe it's just a function of the process. But I'm not leaving a tab. I'm not telling it to, leave 10,000s. I'm telling it, I think 0. I don't think there's any negative allowance on there. And because the saw just kind of pushes the material to the side and when it's really, really thin, it doesn't cut all the way through, and that leaves the meeples all attached to each other. It's basically a burr. They're connected by a really long, consistent burr.
Interesting.
So, Scott, what are you most excited for coming to work for Design the Everything full time?
I don't have like a like a specific or current answer, but I would say one of the biggest reasons I even want to be an entrepreneur or to start a business is that I don't want to be solving the same problem all the time. Um, I really enjoy the fact that I'm going to have to wear multiple hats and solve different problems. Um, and I mean, the obvious of being your own boss is nice. Like, you don't have somebody being like, don't. I mean, I'm not going to name my current employer, but my current employer,
Nobody knows who they are anyway.
I know nobody. You would have to be very local. Um, actually, that's not entirely true, but that's not important. Um, so, but they have a habit. Like, my boss doesn't know anything about graphic design and manages two graphic designers. And so she has a habit of telling us to do it a different way after we've done it the right way. And you're like, why did you think that was a good idea? Like, what are you critiquing? Um, so there's a bad habit of like going in the opposite direction of like, I did a good job and now we're making it worse. Which is really demoralizing. So, being able to make decisions and know that I'm doing the best I can is definitely encouraging.
And getting rewarded for when you do a good job.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, that's a double-sided knife or whatever. Like, like of course, better times are better rewards, but if you get lazy or complacent, you know, it's only you or only me and AJ. So I'm very aware of that.
So, what do you see as the biggest downside or the worst part of coming and working for Design the Everything?
I think my answer to this is kind of boring too, but probably just the benefits currently, honestly. Like, I'm leaving, I mean, maybe just like the fact of having a 9 to 5 job where there's always the possibility you get laid off, but it's pretty steady and you're not going to get fired tomorrow. Um, and all the benefits that come with that, except that it can also hold you back. Like, you can not reach the potential that you could outside of that box. Well, the original question was something about the worst thing. Um, if I were to reach beyond that, I have to think.
While you're thinking, a quote that I heard the other day was, I hated working my 9 to 5 job, so I became an entrepreneur, and now I work 24/7.
Yeah, yeah. That's
There's truth to that, but um, there is a sense of liberation when you are your own boss. Just not as much pressures. You do have pressures; they're just different, and in some ways, even if they are greater at times, they're also more forgiving because it's a lot more self-imposed pressures rather than someone standing over you yelling at you. It might be the pressure of, hey, I got to get something done. I got to hire someone because I need help, or I got to do this, or I got to do that. Um, but it's you solving your own problems, and the problems are creating pressure. But it's not someone yelling at you, hey, make it better, and you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Because I've run into a lot of different instances at my old job where scope creep would just kill projects. where you'd spend hours working on something only to find out that it had changed a week or two ago and no one told you, or you go over plans in a meeting and then in an email chain they just start changing everything on you, and then by the time you're done and you look at all the requirements on a sheet of paper, you go, how's this ever going to work? Like, they made all these changes, which on their own is completely legitimate in a vacuum, but when you add them all together, it equals a product that's not going to work. So, and there's as a smaller company, there's a lot more control over that loop. It's a lot shorter. I mean, it starts and ends with you most of the time.
Yeah. In that vein, I think my answer would be something along the lines of like learning when to trust myself. Like, there are definitely things I'm good at and I know I'm good at, but knowing when to like really rely on that and when to like say rely on AJ, or when to learn something new, um and when to put my foot down, basically. It's a negative way of putting it, but like standing your ground and just being like, this is the best way and this is why. I think that's just going to be a process of figuring it out.
So I have a piece of advice for you guys that my grandpa gave to me. He started his own business um, with two other guys back in, what would it have been, like the 70s or 60s. Um, Anyways, he had a gentleman that he started a business with, and they would argue over every single decision that was made in the company. And they just had a rule that if someone took one side of an argument, the other person would take the opposite. So they were in the cabinet business. And one day, my grandpa's a very, he doesn't like to rock the boat very much. And I'm very much in that same nature. And so this other guy was not. So he comes in there and he goes, hey, I think we need more semi trucks so we can, make deliveries. My grandpa's like, okay, that's fine. And he like slammed his fist on his desk and he's like, no, that is not okay. You need to disagree so that we can figure out what is the right answer.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of truth to that. Whenever you're a business, it's real easy to agree with the person over and over again and go, oh yeah, that's a great idea. It's a great idea. But it's, they formed a thing at the beginning where they said, we're going to disagree, and we're going to figure out what the right answer is. And it could be something that like we both have the same opinion on, like we both agree that it needs to be done, but someone needs to pick up that other side of the argument and slam their fist down and go, no, I don't want to do it that way, I want to do it this way. And the key to that is to maintain a healthy relationship through those arguments, and that they are a healthy part of establishing a business. Like um I had a really good friend that I had a senior design project with back in my college days, and we went through this at one point. We had a problem we were dealing with, and we were yelling at each other so loud for like 30 minutes. And we're in a lab, and there's a whole bunch of other kids, and we completely forgot about them. And so we're working on a computer program, a coding problem. And eventually one of us figures out that the solution is what the other person was saying. And we're like, oh, okay. And we just go back to working. Like nothing happened. And the whole, like, you could hear a pin drop in that lab. And like someone finally came over and like, are you guys okay? We're like, no, we're fine. Like, we solved the problem. The problem was the problem that we were attacking. We weren't attacking each other. And that's a very hard dynamic to get, but it's something that is extremely beneficial in the company, because you need someone to argue with, because that's how you find solutions. So
Yeah. I'll say, I hope AJ backs me up on this, but I'm 90% sure he will. That I think that like I definitely appreciate the advice but it really just reinforces something that I think we're actually pretty good at already, which is just arguing any point that comes up together. Like, I mean, there's always room to improve, but like multiple times we've had people be like, kind of like you said in the lab, like, are you guys okay? We're like,
Yeah.
this is not this is not we're not, like you said, I think we do a good job of not attacking each other. Um, like we're figuring out the problem. And most of the time we're, I mean, I think what happens naturally is that we argue ourselves into the same point. Like we both end up arguing the same point for
Yeah.
like 2 minutes. And then we're like, oh yeah, okay. We're
We
arguing the
agree.
same thing now. Yeah. So, and I mean, his wife does it most because she's around us a lot, but she's always like, I don't understand your relationship. And we're like, that's because we're not attacking each other. We're trying to like figure out that we do like, even if we think we have the right solution, we argue it out to make sure that like we had the right intuition.
Yeah.
I think
That's
another
good.
way that we work together well is, let's say there is something we disagree on. And like we legitimately don't agree with the other person's opinion. I think we are both good at going, okay, that's a graphic design thing. I'm just going to go with Scott. We disagree. Scott, this is Scott's domain. So we go with what Scott says. And, if it's an engineering thing, you're going to be like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to go with what AJ goes. And like, we're pretty good about like, we can express our opinion, but like, okay, this is his domain. So whatever.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. There's very few people that I've dealt with that can do that effectively. And most it's hard to remove the personal and argue the points and come to a solid solution.
Yeah. And
So
for the people who don't have the background on me and Scott, like Harrison here,
Yeah.
Scott and I have been working together on something in some shape or form for probably a decade now.
Yeah.
Maybe 9 years. So like we've worked together a lot.
So
obviously
on that,
never as closely as we're about to, but
so
Close.
on that note, how did you guys meet and start working together? Because that's something I don't know.
I've told this story a lot of times before, Scott. I'm interested to hear how you tell it, because there's probably things that I get wrong or misremember.
I have a bad habit of only remembering the things that are important to me, which I guess is not unique to me.
I feel
but
like I'm about to be offended here.
yeah, we met at Fairway. The name's okay. We met at Purdue, in a Christian guy's house. I was pledging and AJ was not. I think he was part of the time and then decided not to. I think is how it worked out. Because he had, school and ROTC and
Getting
stuff.
married,
getting a girlfriend. Yeah. When did you get engaged? Like what school, college wise?
It might have been as a sophomore.
Okay,
I think it was as a sophomore.
That tracks to me. But I hope that AJ does not remember the exact day and time that we met, because I do not. But I don't know. We just kind of came together at some point and we started hanging out, and I don't know. Like we aligned on a lot of things, and we had like devotions together and stuff. I don't know. Eventually, we kind of figured out that our skills complemented each other, though it took a few more years for us to both decide that we wanted to start a business, which we knew had to be a hobby at first, for it to last a long time or for it to work.
So I think I remember something that you don't. I have a very specific memory of I was in your room and we were both sitting in your nice comfy recliners, and I think I was probably working on homework or something on my computer, and you were just kind of browsing on your computer, and you went, AJ, look at this Kickstarter thing. And I think you introduced me to what Kickstarter was at the time. You probably had to explain it to me. And it was a pen that had made like $200,000 on Kickstarter. And you were like, I want to make a pen that makes $200,000 on Kickstarter. And I was like, I want to make a pen that makes $200,000 on Kickstarter. And that was kind of how Design the Everything started.
I absolutely remember that interaction. It just wasn't our first or even close. So that's why it wasn't part of the story.
No, okay. That's the one that I see. Like when I tell people the story of the birth of Design the Everything, that's the moment I tell people.
Yeah, for sure. That is the beginning of Design the Everything. It just wasn't even in the first 6 months of us meeting, I don't think.
No, it wasn't within the first 6 months. We basically just played Halo for like the first 6 months.
Yeah,
of us being friends.
and then I introduced you to Nuclear Throne.
Yes, you did.
Which is a game no one will know, but they should all play.
Yes.
Yeah, I was looking up tactile turns like first couple of pens on Kickstarter, and I honestly think we could credit them with us having started a business because
I think it was definitely Tactile Turn.
Yeah, oh, it was. I know for sure. I think like the first thing I ever backed on Kickstarter was a video game because of course I was in college. But the thing that really reinforced that I liked Kickstarter was one of Tactile Turn's first pens. Because I was like, I don't know, I just didn't know that this like small batch world of very well made products existed in any form, let alone like I know Kickstarter was even new then, but just that somebody was putting a lot of thought into designing a pen was like super cool to me. I have the original sketches from like the pen that we wanted to make. At the time, I still feel this way sometimes where I'm like, I would, as a designer, I want to know what the restrictions are. Like what are the things that are forcing me into particular decisions? And while my engineering knowledge has grown a lot over the last 10 years, I still sometimes I'm like afraid that I'm going to draw something that's impossible to make. Which sometimes you have to do just to figure out just to look at it and see if you can make that. But back then it was very much like, I don't know, I'll just sketch something that I think looks cool and we'll talk about whether we could make that or not. And I don't know if you remember the racing stripe pen, but that was definitely a thing that we made, or at least we've talked about making.
Was that the one that was going to be Damascus Steel?
It may have turned into that, but at first it was just like a pill shaped pen, like very round on each end. And then like just like a thick stripe and a thin stripe next to each other. And we were going to do different color combinations, even though we didn't know how to make the metal part of the pen or paint anything.
The funny thing is it still sounds like something that we would make. We probably wouldn't call it the racing stripe. We would probably call it like something else, but
names are hard.
Yeah, names are hard. But the funny thing is the pen I'm thinking of was the one we were going to do with like a pattern welded steel thing, which is kind of laughable now that I think about it. But the sketches for that pen are not wildly different than the Spire 2 pen or whatever we're calling the one that like we just did. Like it's still a really similar pen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see the history and how, like, even though we've improved, we still kind of think similarly than we did in the past.
So this is very interesting to hear. When did machining of your own products enter this mix? Because I know you guys did some 3D printed stuff, but when did you actually start buying your own machines and actually start manufacturing your own stuff?
Can I preempt this question a little bit? We'll get to it, I promise. AJ started Indiana prototyping, which I don't know. I don't like, honestly, I only know half the history of, I feel like, because I was going through some things in college at that time. But I know that he like prototyped some products for some people, and that probably led into machines, but AJ can fill in those gaps.
Yeah, so Indiana prototyping did not stay around very long. It's like not even really worth mentioning, except that the email account for our YouTube channel is still a contact at indianaprototyping.com email address, which does not exist anymore. It is only a login for our YouTube channel. I do still own the domain though. But I think just wanting to make things and wanting to play around, I got a early 3D printer. And then I got a small CNC router, and that CNC router was probably or it was definitely the first like CNC piece of equipment that I had. And you just kind of start like wanting more and more things and better things. And at some point I found a lathe, a small Shoreline lathe that was in a nice enclosure for sale down in Kentucky for like, I think it was $1,000. And that ended up being a pretty good little machine. And that was our first real quote unquote metal cutting CNC machine. But that lathe was because we wanted to make pens. Like we did the 3D printed pen. We didn't know enough to get a machine shop to make our other pens. And we tried to get quotes on it. But we didn't know what
They
we were
definitely
doing.
just dismissed us.
Yes, they did. Very, very nicely, very politely.
Yeah, for sure.
But they dismissed us. And so we were like, okay, well, how are we going to make it ourselves? And so we bought a lathe. So I bought a lathe. That's how that started. And then we realized that the pens were really hard to make. And so then we made the Arch Top, which was that our first Kickstarter? No, the Spire pen was our first Kickstarter. The Arch Top was our second Kickstarter.
Yeah, I don't know how much of the Spire story you've told, but the Spire was definitely me being like, we should do a Kickstarter. Like, just do anything. Just get a product. Just do it. Just run it through Kickstarter. Even if we fail, like, we'll at least have gone through the process.
And we figured out we could 3D print it on Shapeways. And that worked pretty well, except for all kinds of issues we had. Which is another story.
It's mostly like tolerance issues, right?
There was a combination of tolerance issues and I guess repeatability issues, you would call them, with Shapeways, where we ordered prototypes and they were fine. And then we tweaked our design a little bit and Shapeways refused to make them, even though they were almost exactly the same. And so then we went back to the original design. And on the original design, when they made them the second time, they were awful. And then I think I actually bought a metal lathe, a little, more than like one of those little desktop lathes, but not a big lathe. It was an Atlas lathe. And I actually did a little bit of like drilling on the lathe with them. But I didn't know what I was doing, and so I scrapped a bunch of them. Then we had to buy a bunch more parts. And some of those were fine, and some of those weren't fine. And then we didn't make any money.
Yeah, we were probably just a little negative on that one.
I think we paid each of ourselves like $100. So I think we each made $100 on that.
That is a very interesting story. So Kickstarter has really been at the forefront of everything. And everything that you guys have done has been in pursuit of Kickstarter, even all the way up to today.
Yes, pretty much, from day one.
At some level. Mm-hmm.
Now, I would like to not be dependent on Kickstarter, which we very much are right now. But yeah, it'll always be a part of our business strategy as long as it's like a good, popular platform.
So how many Kickstarters have you done to date then, in total?
6. We did the
I lost
Spire
track. I took a break.
pen, the Arch Top, the Buttress Wallet, the Parametric Pry Bar, the Not for Climbing Carabiner, and the
Coin.
Generative Coins.
Yeah.
Which didn't have a fancy name. Is that all of them?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. The Buttress Wallet was the only one that didn't get funded.
Which is sad because I still carry it and I love it, but
I still
also
care about
helped
Buttress
design
Wallet,
it. So
everybody that I've talked to who bought a Buttress Wallet still uses it and loves it.
Yeah.
Though I would improve some things on it, but
it was not the flashiest product. I think is really the only problem it had. It was a really solid, like, minimal leather wallet. So
we learned the purple cow thing with the Buttress Wallet.
Yeah.
What was your purple cow on that one?
It didn't have
we
one.
didn't have one. That's why I failed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying that you implemented the purple cow.
No, we learned it in a bad way. We learned that we didn't do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because it was just like a black leather wallet. Like, we didn't even have color options at that point when we first launched it.
Okay. I think there were color options, but our main photography was of the black wallet, which was a mistake.
No, when we first launched it, we didn't have color options. And then we went back and we were going to add color options and relaunch it. And then we didn't. And then I slowly sold off the buttress wallets, like the prototypes over the next like 5 years for $20 each, which is sad because they were worth so much more than that. But they're all gone now. They all sold. It took 5 years, but we sold all the prototypes.
I bought the one that I own too, so
Yeah.
I'm probably more attached to it than.
Do you have the orange one?
Yeah.
We had like 10 black ones and then like one orange one yellow one blue one gray one.
What pushed me into buying it was that you said this is the last orange one on Instagram, and I was like, well, now or never.
It was the only orange one.
Oh, it was?
Yeah. Yeah, I still carry, I think, probably the very first one, which is notable because it doesn't fit dollar bills, which is kind of an important feature of a wallet.
Yeah,
Nice
there
one.
would be some changes.
But also, I don't carry dollar bills, so it works out. Or just bills in general, $1 or otherwise.
Same. Who carries money? Who are these people?
Yeah.
Or cash,
Who
I should
has
say.
money?
Who
They
has
should start a
money?
business.
Who has?
Then they could not
who
have
has
money.
cash? Yeah, yeah.
The fastest way to make $100,000 is to start with $1 million and start a business.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
I will say on the Spire pen, our packaging was fantastic.
It was. I do really like that box.
That might be the best packaging we've ever had still.
That brings up an interesting question, because I did just buy. Is that top that I bought from you? Is that the same Spire top? You guys?
That's
did on
the arch
Kickstarter?
top.
Or the arch top? Yeah.
Yes,
I
that was
didn't-
excess inventory from a Kickstarter.
Okay. Did you make those wood boxes yourselves?
I outsourced those. Those were
You
made
outsourced
by Stan of Odyssey CNC.
Oh. I'm sure I knew that at the time, but I didn't know who he was, really.
Who now has a really unique CNC machine that he's selling. It's like a lathe meets a CNC router. It's kind of cool. But anyway.
Yeah, I thought it was a cool box. The only thing that I had to complain about it was the magnets were not seated far enough in.
Yeah, that was
I
the
screwed
problem.
So this is the kind of thing that I wouldn't have sent to a different customer, but you were a friend, so I didn't feel too bad.
Oh, okay. Just making sure, because I was just like, man, these magnets are so far out.
There's maybe a moment of laziness there where I tried to use the hot glue gun instead of super glue like we used to. And when I pushed the magnets in with the hot glue gun, I think there was kind of a piston effect and they just like stopped. So yeah, sorry.
That makes more sense. No, that's
I
fine.
I didn't know about that.
I am perfectly okay with it. I'm glad everyone else got a better one than I did, because I was like, I got this box and I was like, oh man, this is a really, I was not expecting this. It wasn't on the product page anywhere. I was just expecting a top, and then I was like, oh, there's this cool wooden box, and I was like, it doesn't fit together very well.
I'm also only down to reject boxes. So I have a small handful of them left, and they all have something wrong with them.
I gotcha. Go ahead.
Oh, is there still the one person who hasn't filled their survey out on the Kickstarter? There was a coral one, which was the most expensive one, and somebody hadn't filled it out, their survey.
So they did fill out their survey 2 years late, but it's been so long that Kickstarter won't allow me access to the backer surveys anymore, for privacy reasons. And because I was not the creator of the Kickstarter, it was you, I don't have the ability to request permission to access that anymore. And it's been 2 years, and I don't care anymore. If you really wanted your arch top, you should have done it in the first 2 years.
It's wild that they even thought to do that. I don't
they
understand.
found it 2 years later.
Yeah. What prompted them to fill in the survey 2 years later?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
With the generative coin, the surveys were filled out. 99% of them were filled out within 48 hours, but there's still one person who has not filled out their survey. So I have shipped 99% of coins.
Which means one coin is not shipped because there were 100 coins.
Yes.
So, was the coins the fastest thing you've ever had to? Well, I mean, you haven't really had anything else that's had a cap, have you?
Technically, the pry bars had a cap, and I think technically the Spire pens had a cap. The generative coins were the only time we've actually hit a cap.
Yeah, and you hit it in like 3 days.
Yeah, it was fast. I think it was 2 days.
Wow.
Maybe it was on the third day, but not.
It was like the
72
morning of the
hours.
third day, I think, because like I remember saying like, because I remember very specifically being like, when this podcast comes out, they're going to be sold out, and you're like, no, they're not. You know, they won't be sold out. And like, I think I remember on Wednesday, like looking at it because that's when our podcast normally comes out, and was like, oh, they just sold out.
Yep.
There was definitely a video that came out like 10 days later where you were still selling the coins, and I was like, it's like these are not even a little available.
Yeah.
Yeah, they turned out really good. Did you offer in your Kickstarter campaign the heat treat?
So they all got it.
They all got it?
You are probably thinking of the pictures I posted on Instagram of the Wabi Sabi coins, but
Wabi Sabi.
Those had a different finishing process. So on the Wabi Sabi ones, or at least two of the four were blackened all over, and I just left them. With the Kickstarter coins, I blackened them and then I polished off the surface so that only the engraving was dark.
Okay, that makes sense.
So for contrast.
Okay,
which is why I bought the forge and yada yada yada.
Yeah, no, because I thought that was really cool, and I really want to play around with heat treating stainless and offering that. So like going back to options for and more product options, the coins have been doing really well, and I want to offer different sizes, different finishes. I want to offer a polish finish, a stone wash finish, just a blank machine finish, and have those in customized with either a dark mark or deep engrave and all sorts of different options because they've been doing really well.
Yeah.
And
now keep in mind the heat blue finish, whatever you want to call it, is not a durable finish. Mm-hmm. It's even less durable than like a heat anodize. So I was fine doing it because it was inside the bottom of a little crevice. Like you couldn't really damage it. But if you had it on the surface of a coin, like it would be like polishing aluminum. Like as soon as you slide it across the surface, it's scratched.
We green scrubbied it away. So if that tells you anything.
Yeah.
Green Scotch Brite.
Oh, sure.
To be fair, the finishes that are on them right now, the machine finishes, you could drop the coin once and ding it up. Like on concrete or on almost anything.
Yeah. But there's a difference between dropping it on concrete and sliding it around on a desk.
Well, we're putting them straight into baggies because they'll scratch in the chip tray, just digging them out.
Yeah.
If you're not careful. So they're not super resistant to scratching just because they're a high polish. Unless we were to clear coat them, which we are not. So maybe that's something else we could offer as a clear coat finish.
How would you hold them?
So I just saw a Saunders video I was watching here recently where they did some golf coins out of brass, and they clear coated theirs, and they took a bunch of toothpicks or something with a very sharp point, and they sprayed one side and then flipped them over and sprayed the other side, and that did a really good job of clear coating them.
So they were using a not a shellac, but like a what do you call the like polyurethane kind of sealant, whatever it was. I would assume you are going to be doing Cerakote.
Yeah, potentially. We just got a clear coat Cerakote, and it's a lot like it's just a wet paint. So
yeah. Have you tried to get 2 layers of Cerakote to adhere to each other though?
Yes. We do a battle worn finish on our guns. So you have to flash cure it and then spray it before it fully cures.
Okay. Well, we had troubles with this, but fine. You go do a good job at things. We were never very good at Cerakote.
we've got our Cerakote process down pretty good.
Okay.
Cerakote is basically made for guns
we're
too,
always
right?
looking to improve it. But we've got 2-coat, multi-coat Cerakotes down. At least, the ones that we've done, which is very few. We've done like 4. And we haven't had any issues. We've had more issues with just trying to get a consistent layer than anything dealing with multi-layer.
So my new powder coat booth is just about done. There's still the last few final touches. But we put in a 12-foot grounding rod, like a big copper rod right outside the room there. It makes such a big difference. Like, I knew that grounding was important for powder coating, but before we just kind of grounded to the building, which was then grounded at the electrical whatever. But man, putting that 12-foot grounding rod like 4 feet away from the powder coating system, huge difference. And it's been really nice.
Why didn't you just connect to the ground plug on an outlet?
It's not good enough ground.
Really?
There's like so when my powder coat system will go up to 80 kilovolts, and weird electrical things happen at super high voltages like that. And they're like the I don't know if it'd be resistance or impedance, whatever that correct term is, in the line to get to wherever the outlet is actually literally grounded to the ground, was too much. And it causes weird effects with your powder coat.
Interesting. I never would have thought that. Because, like that ground wire, at least I'm assuming all houses are this way, is physically connected to the ground outside. So, with a big pole.
But how much wire and breaker panels and other stuff does it have to get through?
That's fair. Yeah.
So what happens is you end up with basically you build up too much charge on your part. Again, 80 kilovolts here, like that's a lot of volts. And so you end up positively charging your part, which then repels the powder away and like causes weird bubbles and weird artifacts on the surface. But if you have a better ground, a higher quality ground, that charge can get off of the part better, which means that your finishes are better and you can get a more even layers and yada yada yada. You use less powder too.
That's cool.
More of it sticks. So it was.
So do you actually see like the powder like suck onto the part? That's cool.
Yeah, it's like you know how if you take like a statically charged object, like you take a tube of Delrin or PVC or whatever, and you rub it with like a rabbit hair, and you hold it underneath the sink when it's like lightly dripping, like you can actually see the water bend around it. You can kind of see that with the powder, but cool. Maybe a little bit more dramatic. But yeah, it magnets to it.
That's cool.
It's really magical when you spray the front of a part and then you turn it around to spray the back, and the back is already coated.
I haven't done it a ton, but powder coating is super fun.
Have you powder coated with the new system at all yet? Like
not with like the new booth and stuff.
With the new guns though, or did you just use the old Harbor Freight one?
I think I used the nice gun before you got a second one.
Okay. Yeah, because we did your table legs. Yeah, the new guns compared to the old Harbor Freight guns is just a world of difference. And then like adding that good ground is just another world of difference.
Well, I think that's all I got for this evening. What else?
I was about to say, I'm getting tired. Do you want to take us out, Harrison?
Well, Scott, thanks for joining us on this podcast. I'm sure we'll probably be seeing more of you in the future, but appreciate you coming on and getting to meet you and learning a little bit about the history of Design the Everything and how you fit into all that.
So, yeah, it was super fun. Thanks for having me.
And fits into the future.
Yeah, for sure. So I expect great things from both of you now. All right. So
yeah, we need to do 4 times more work to keep up. So
yeah, I'm gonna hold AJ to a higher standard now, and he's not gonna be able to complain as much. He's gonna be like, nope, you gotta help.
I never complain.
So, all right. Well, thanks for hanging on. Please like and share and tell all your friends about this podcast. And I'm Harrison with Precision Ingenuity, signing out with AJ and Scott from Design the Everything.
Bye.